All right, hey, I just wanted to check in because I finished another book. Boom, Wizard and Glass by Stephen King. This is the fourth book in the Dark Tower series, and it is the most different so far, I will say. I actually literally just finished reading this like 5 minutes ago, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna record my thoughts right away. Normally I try to like let it marinate and stuff, but I took all my notes for it and said, fuck it, let's just record it. It starts off right where the other book, right where the Wastelands had left off, which I actually originally, in that review, I said I didn't think that was the case, but I was incorrect. It does start off right with Blaine the Train and the riddles at the end of the third book. The first little section, the 15-20% of the book, is them resolving that. And the way that they do it is they have Roland try to tell Blaine all of the best riddles he knows to see if he can stump Blaine the Train and bring him to an end before they reach Topeka, Kansas. When Roland's riddles aren't working, they use Jake's book, his riddle book, to try to see if there's any riddles in there that Blaine doesn't know. Those aren't working. Eddie had been quiet the whole time, really keeping to himself, and at the end, when they're nearing Topeka, he shoots up and he starts telling these like dumb riddles, these jokey kind of riddles, like why did the baby cross the road? Because it was stapled to the chicken. Like those kinds of things that they're dumb. And he ends up stumping Blaine with that and having the train slow down kind of just in time to make it so that they don't die when they crash. And that's kind of how the Blaine thing resolves itself. Right immediately after that, they are walking into Kansas and they're walking through the scene of The Stand, which is super cool by Stephen King. They are in the world of The Stand right now, where Randall Flagg is rampant. Both Mother Abigail and Randall Flagg are putting dreams in people's minds in this world. They're calling people both to Nebraska and to Las Vegas, and they're in the world of The Stand, and they're in Kansas, and it was so cool to just suddenly be there and to just realize what was going on. And Captain Trips is rampant, and it's like, this is sick, this is awesome. I love shit like that. So that immediately was really cool. Now, I can see why some people don't like this book because of what happens right here. And I will be honest with you, I had a very, 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 very hard time for the first 200 pages maybe of Roland recounting the story of Susan and his childhood. It just feels very jarring to go back in time when you're on this big quest and it's exciting and stuff, and then you have to slow down and go back and start a whole new story over. It is a little jarring, and it took some time for me to get used to, but once I got used to it, I was fully invested in the new story, and I really did enjoy the story of Susan and Cuthbert and Elaine, I don't know how to pronounce his name. In my head, I pronounced his name about 40,000 different ways, so But as soon as we go back in time where Roland is starting to recount the story, it goes immediately back to Susan Delgado, his love interest from when he was a 14-year-old, and I think she was 15, 16. It goes back right to Susan's perspective when she is meeting with this witch named Rhea, and Rhea is a terrible lady. She's a crazy old lady who has this glass ball that she can look into, and she sees the worst moments in people's lives, pretty much. Every time she looks into this ball, she's just seeing the bad things that are happening and the things that people don't want you to see. And so she gets very obsessed with it. Anyway, Susan is at the witch's hut, and the witch is getting her ready for what is called the reaping, where all of the men in the village, I believe, partner up with a woman, and that is when they impregnate them, and it's the end of the year celebration kind of thing. Susan has been forced into hooking up with the mayor, who is like a 70-year-old man, and she's like 16. And that is who she is going to be bearing the children of, is the Mayor Thorin. Her aunt promised Susan to him in exchange for some sort of like land deal, and just it was a very selfish reason to try to hold on to what they believed the family had the right to. So Rhea ends up like sexually assaulting Susan. She makes her get naked, fucking puts fingers in her and shit. It's graphic. Most of this, there is a lot of themes of like raping young people in this book. But cut to Roland, Cuthbert, and Alan. They are sent away from home at the age of 14 because there is a threat of Martin, which was Roland's father's wizard advisor or something at some point. He isn't good, and things are going bad. Roland's father sends all three of them away in name of the affiliation to go and get some counts of this other town's supplies and horses and things that they might need in wartime if things come to that. So they kind of just send them away, partly in safety, partly in like a little test of, can you do this little thing for the affiliation? They all are working under fake names. Roland is Will Dearborn or something like. Roland and Susan end up falling in love, and they end up actually having sex and he takes her virginity from her, which is a big deal for the reaping that was upcoming. And Rhea, meanwhile, has been seeing all of this through her little crystal ball, her pink crystal ball, which we learn is part of the wizard's glass or the wizard's rainbow. And this is a pink crystal ball called the wizard's grapefruit. And she has this piece of it, which is allowing her to see all of this evil shit, and she's obsessed. While this is going on, Roland is still also doing the work that he was sent there to do, and they find these like oil machines out in this deserty area, and the oil is not something that can be used for anything in town, and they're kind of not sure why it's there. They eventually realize that John Farson, which is a man who is like a political rival and political enemy of Gilead, he was using that to possibly ramp up some supplies of some like war machines or something of the old world. And Roland and Cuthbert and Elaine are set on destroying these now. There are some other little character stories that are happening at the same time. There's a man named Jonas who is the leader of a group I can't remember the name of right now, but he essentially has aligned himself with John Farson and is doing his bidding. He's watching and managing he's looking over the oil rigs, and he finds out that the three young boys have been going out there and inspecting them, and he's not sure why they're out there. Maybe they're not so innocent as they seem. Well, a long story short, that man Jonas ends up killing Mayor Thorin, and framing the boys by using a little skull that one of them had been riding around with, and he puts it at the murder scene. Now, everybody obviously knows that Roland and Susan have been kind of like flirting. There's this weird thing between them, so they're like, obviously, he just went and did her bidding for her. He killed Mayor Thorin so that he could have her. Roland, Cuthbert, and Elaine all get arrested. Susan has to work with this boy who is mentally retarded, whose name is Shimi, I believe his name was. I really like him. He's such a good guy throughout the whole book. He's always so helpful, and he's a great character. But he helps Susan free the three boys. Susan has to actually kill the sheriff and a deputy, which is the first and only time she has to kill somebody. They make their escape, and they end up devising this plan to try to blow up the oil rig things and get away with it by leading all the people that are going to follow them into what's called the Thinny, which is like a weird borderline between worlds where people go insane and it makes you do things that's dangerous. All the three boys lead this group of people who are chasing them into this canyon and set a brush fire behind them so there's no escape, and the only way they can go is through the Thinny. So all of these people end up dying through the Thinny. Well, right before that happened, Roland and Cuthbert and Elaine all had actually confronted Jonas and a small party of people there and killed all of them took the crystal ball, the wizard's grapefruit, the wizard's glass, whatever you call it. They took that, and Roland has this special connection with it, where he's not just seeing it like the others are, but he's like going into this world more. He gets this weird obsession with it too. He's stuck in it, and Cuthbert and Elaine have to like knock him out of getting it, of being so engulfed in this vision with the crystal ball. So after the event with the thinning, where they lead all of those soldiers and men to their death, Roland uses the ball again and sees that Susan had been captured and was being burned alive at the stake by Rhea and the village as like a reaping day sacrifice, and it fucks with him. He goes a little crazy after that. That's like the breaking point for Roland. I think that's where he really turned from like a 14-year-old boy to a man. He had already made his decision. His goals were set on the tower over anything else, over Susan, over being a husband, over being a father. And after seeing that through the ball, he really I think realized what it meant to have your goal be the tower. It really means giving up all else. And it's very interesting. It's very cool, very good story. After that little burning thing, they do hop back into the modern Kansas time, where Eddie, Susanna, and Roland, Jake, Oy are all there. And they end up coming across Randall Flagg, which is crazy. But there's a huge amount of references to the Wizard of Oz throughout the final little portion of the book. It's all the Wizard of Oz. There's the scene with a curtain that gets pulled down to reveal the real voice behind the wizard, who then actually isn't the voice behind the wizard, because the real wizard is Randall Flagg. And there's a really cool little scene that takes place there, and they get to go inside of the wizard's grapefruit one more time. And this time we go inside with Roland, Susanna, Eddie, Jake, and Oy. All of them go inside of the crystal ball. Susanna, Eddie, Jake, and Oy are able to interact with each other, but they can't interact with Roland, and they're really just kind of watching this scene play out of Roland getting tricked into killing his own mother. And we just see Roland lose everybody in this book, really. It shows him becoming a man and losing everything and everybody he cared for and loved, and it really is... This book really does solidify and show you how dedicated Roland has been his whole life to this Dark Tower quest, and why he's willing to put anything on the line and able to get to the Dark Tower. He's already felt like he's lost a lot. There is a mention in here where he said he finally feels like the friends that he has right now are almost worth giving up the quest of the Dark Tower for, but they convince him that they're all in this for the Dark Tower as well, and they're all in. They're behind him, and they awaken on the path of the beam again, and that is where we end off on this book, just getting ready to go follow the beam some more and get closer to the Dark Tower. And I probably left a lot out in this little review. There was a lot that happens in this book. Regardless, it was a fantastic book. Again, I can see why some people may not like it as much, because it is very, very, very jarring, going from this cool quest, getting off Blaine the Train, being in Topeka, Kansas, finally, in the world of the Stand, and then suddenly you are back when Roland's 14 and you're hearing about his love interest. And it is a little jarring. It is a little bit like, I don't really care. But once the story takes you, it fucking takes you for a ride, and it is a good one. So I highly recommend it. I highly recommend this whole series, obviously. It has been fantastic. I cannot wait to read book 5, which I have picked up, and I have... I'm planning on reading it either at the end of this month to the beginning of next month. That's kind of when I read the Dark Tower books, for whatever reason. Tends to be at the beginning of the month, like the first week or whatever. But anyways, I appreciate y'all for sticking around, and thanks.